I was thinking about the nature of privacy yesterday. It's kind of an interesting topic. Why people are private, some more than others. The benefits of privacy versus the benefits of having everything known. The purpose of privacy. I think sometimes a preference for being alone and privacy are only correlated. I think most people who like to be alone are private people, but certainly not all private people like to be alone. So there's something about the nature of privacy that isn't obvious. There seems to be maybe a different reasoning for coming about wanting to be private between those who like to be alone and those who don't. I haven't thought about it enough. The first spring rains came. Birds are happy. Heard my first frogs last night. They'll be chirping tonight. I'll try to record them. Now it's time to clean up from all the junk people still throw out of their cars. Thought littering went out of fashion in the 1970s after that apocalyptic no littering ad, and the stereotyped crying Indian. Apparently not. Seems as popular as ever. Now I'm able to get back in the woods. It's been a while since we filmed, mostly because it was rainy and or we had company, or well, who cares? You don't care why I wasn't filming. But the snow's gone. We had some rains and some warm nights, and that's all it took. I have to keep Miss Maddie on a leash because she just can't stop herself from chasing, and then comes back hobbling. So to put a leash on. It's a pretty morning. Frost always makes things fascinating. It's April Fool's Day. We'll see what happens. always enjoyed that tree. We put up some rocks just for fun. And we clear the trails. I think they look nice. My neighbor makes maple syrup. See if there's anything in it today. It's frozen off the edge. Sure, I'll start running once it warms up. I've always enjoyed that car. There's a lot of character. Yeah, he likes it too. It's a good hiding spot for things to chase. 1965. That's what the license plate says. It's a pretty morning. Maybe I can check out the swan. I doubt you can hear it, but there's also some grouse beating their chests back there. We'll see what I capture. It's the first swallow I've seen this year. Hope my dog's pulling me. More signs of spring. The trees are budding out a little, just beginning. And you can hear chainsaws in the background. Taking a spring picture of this. I guess a picture isn't quite the right word, but it'll be nice to compare during the fall version of this. This is where our snowshoe trail went through during the winter time. You can see you couldn't really go through there now. It's too swampy.
Ice up.
Easter Sunday ice ups. You know?
All right.
Keep it moving.
I'm gliding.
That's John Wozy skiing on Easter Sunday with Digger. Was Michelle training for our long run. She'll be coming up here in a little She's out for a 5-mile run today with Tabor. It's a long hill. Here she came running through. Tabor was well ahead of her. He was chasing something. Or maybe just anxious to get home. Good for her. I tried attracting martins. They just don't live in the right place for them. So the tree swallows are trying it out. That's okay. And the dogs found a new hole. I imagine it must be a groundhog that would live down there, or dig for worms down there. Usually I can't see the bottom, this one I can. What a pest. The dog's got one. The other day, watched him with shells, or she watched him kill it, or at least try to. Well, it finally rained again. Actually, we had rain last night and the previous day. Just much needed. We're still too dry. But spring should really get going now. Haven't seen a single wildflower bloom yet, with the exception of skunk cabbage. That's not what I typically think of when I think of wildflowers. Went to a course last night on taping, kinesio taping. And ended up leaving after the theory part of it was covered. It largely just didn't make any sense. It had no references. There's not much or any research really supporting its use. And I've become very intolerant of spending my time learning things just for the sake of learning them, not because
they're useful in any, way. I mean, kinesio taping probably does have its uses to the extent that it's a distraction to the patient and maybe offers them some novel pain change in their pain experience. Oh, it's going to be very highly variable to the individual themselves. But they had this whole elaborate theory behind. Actually, I should rephrase that. They didn't even have an elaborate theory behind why it works. They made some very vague references, like, well, it relieves pain, versus really how it relieves pain. And then, as typical, they cited gate theory as the primary reason behind pain relief, which is just so boring and likely only partly true. It seems that pain theory has advanced so far beyond gate theory, but most of physical therapy seems to be stuck in gate theory. Anyway, I felt really terrible leaving the course because, well, somebody paid for me to be there. I had hesitated to go initially, but I felt a lot of social pressure to go from my bosses and coworkers. And reflecting on it, what I did with those same hours, I took a bike ride with Michelle, took my dogs for a walk, bought groceries, got some Chinese takeout, and actually did some research on the subject of taping. That proved to be more valuable than spending an afternoon learning a very specific technique that somehow wouldn't produce the results you want, perhaps if you did it incorrectly. I mean, I think that whole course could have been 3 hours, and I could have stuck around that long. There's a hornet's nest, wasp nest last year. There's some nice songbirds singing. I reflect on what was really bugging me about leaving the course. I think it was more not so much a leaving act itself, but I just feel a little bit marginalized within my profession. I was apparently the only person who probably felt that way, or at least I just don't seem to. Hold on here. When asked why I was leaving by one of my bosses, I basically said because this is worthless. I didn't have any value for it, and she looked kind of surprised at that answer. And I guess I could have rephrased it differently, but I guess that was the essence of why I was leaving, is that it didn't hold sufficient worth for me to be there. But what it also means is that I was the person who felt that way, whereas others weren't. They were finding value in it. And yet we're both practicing in the same profession, treating the same patient population. And I can't help but think one of us isn't using the best evidence out there. And I'm afraid of it being me. But I don't think it is. I would be much more comfortable being in a position of simply not knowing what I'm talking about and sitting through the lecture, learning, because I don't know the information. But it's uncomfortable being in a position when you think you know what you're talking about amongst those who freely admit that they don't. I don't like it, and I'm not comfortable in that position. Because if I'm wrong, then I'm particularly foolish looking. And when I do something like leave a course, it puts them in a position of wondering whether they should leave the course. And just, hey you guys, that's enough. No, Tabor. Tabor, no. No. Sorry. Jesus. I gotta stop. Unfortunately, they just can't play. No, you guys. Poor Maddie with her knee. Poor Tabor not having a buddy. I guess to sum it up, I just no longer have the same belief system as most physical therapists in my community. Therefore, don't find a place that's easy to settle in. It's uncomfortable.